Okay.
item on race. Okay, Taimu, you just told me.
Okay, I'm going to get started. I would appreciate if there are players who queue a little bit later tonight and they ask you, what did you all talk about at 8 p.m.? If you could give them a TLDR, I'm going to post the TLDR in the chat, but some of these things are not exactly going to be familiar to you until you give them a go or you see them in action. I'm sure a lot of you have seen on stream the invite players playing FACEIT, so maybe you have some familiarity. Maybe some of you come from games where FACEIT has been used in the past, but it's not. It's used for a variety of games. It's most successful in Counter Strike, and there's a lot of promise for it to be successful for Deadlock as well. So for those of you who don't know, FACEIT is a third-party matchmaking service. They basically facilitate matchmaking um, alternatives to in-client default matchmaking systems like the one that we have in Deadlock. Um, the most successful venture for FACEIT has been Counter-Strike. So Counter-Strike, they have over 20 million accounts, over 9 million active users. Their FPL prize pool is over $100,000. FACEIT itself was purchased for $500 million as part of a package deal with ESL, the largest third-party tournament organizer in the world, for $1.5 billion by the Savvy group. Savvy Group is a Saudi Arabian wealth fund. It's a very well-supported platform, lots of opportunities here. And what we are doing is basically pioneering Deadlock on the platform. So just so you know, why are you here? Why are you not just playing MM? I want to give you a kind of overview for what FACEIT has to offer in general. So if you are familiar with Counter-Strike, you're familiar that the in-game matchmaking system is basically broken. No competitive player plays the in-game matchmaking system. They are exclusively playing FACEIT. If they're playing the in-game matchmaking system, it's just to have some fun with some friends. And even there, they tend to prefer to want to play FACEIT because FACEIT has an anti-cheat and FACEIT has all sorts of other um, advantages to the in-client matchmaking service. Um, the same holds true for Deadlock. So for now, we don't have an anti-cheat for Deadlock for FACEIT for obvious reasons. The game is not out. The API is limited. A lot of the functionality that you would find in Counter-Strike for FACEIT, we don't yet have for Deadlock. So for Counter-Strike, when you want to play a match, you press play in your pub or wherever you're playing. Sometimes you don't have to play through a club. I can get into that later. And it will put you into a lobby, and then all you have to do is hit connect, and it connects you to a server. Currently, we do not have that automation because Valve does not have the API accessible. When the game is released, we will have that API accessible, but in this interim period, we have to do some things manually. So that is the most important bit of information I'm going to get through today, the things that we need to do manually. I'm going to save that for a bit later. I just want to continue with the overview of what we have to offer on FACEIT as opposed to the in-client matchmaking service. So what we are intending here with Open is to give you an alternative to the in-game service. So as it stands right now, if you're playing in-game, probably 1 out of every 2 or 3 games, you're getting a lever, either on your team or the other team. You're getting no commerce probably every game. You're probably getting toxicity every game, even if you're winning. Um, that toxicity is probably taking horrific forms that I don't even want to mention here. Um, there probably is cheating with very little accountability or review, and there's no cash prizes. So we are here to remedy most of those things. Obviously, we don't have an anti-cheat, but we review demos, we review match replays. If anyone looks sussy, they're gone, they're banned, they're under review, they're suspended, whatever the case may be. But I want to talk about the things that are a little bit more amorphous. So things like toxicity, skill gaps, griefing, leaving. Okay. We are trying to make an alternative to ranked here. So that means that there will be punishments for things like leaving matches, griefing matches, running it down. I have to say this. If you're watching the invite matches, I'm sure you do see that some people do run it down sometimes when they're in a certain mood. They have a different set of, let's say, circumstances right now. I do not care to get into the circumstances right now with you all. It's a bit difficult to explain why we have to kind of hold our nose with some of that stuff for the time being, but that is not going to be the case down for open. For open, we are going to be a lot stricter with how we are enforcing these rules, and that would go for these people as well if they just decide to play some of the usual suspects for creating trouble in invite. So what we want here is we don't want rage quitters. If someone is rage quitting, you're going to get either a queue suspension or you'll get totally removed from the club. So that means if you're down in your lane, don't give up the game and just resign yourself to losing or something like that. This game has a million comeback mechanics. You can turn things around. Doesn't matter if you get stomped in lane, you can turn it around. You don't have to run it down. So we don't want rage quits. We don't want griefing. So griefing would be intentionally throwing. That means continually taking solo fights when you know you shouldn't be. Your teammates are asking you not to, and you're basically just feeding the other team. Griefing in other ways too. I'm sure there will be manifestations of it we haven't yet seen. But if you see someone who's clearly trying to just throw the game, we are here to punish them. Whereas Valve, the most profitable company per capita for a reason, meaning they don't have a lot of staff and they don't have a lot of moderators, they're not going to be policing behavior the same way that we're policing behavior. We are here to try and give you a better competitive experience. Um, so I just want to put it out there. There's obviously going to be conflicts here. A lot of you players there's going to be skill gaps between you, and we are going to need to tighten the skill gap here, and we're going to work over the coming weeks to do so. Um, and that will produce frustrations. People will be frustrated that you're losing. But for the time being, I want you to focus more on just taking this as an opportunity to develop as a player in a better competitive environment than ranked, and be less focused on your leaderboard position or something like that, because we are working out all of the various issues with this format as they arise. I'm sure there's going to be plenty, and I'm going to be your point of contact for that. So when it comes to match support or player issues, you can just directly contact me, and we can sort it out. What I want us to do is not hash out problems um, in public, even though you see that happening in the invite division. Trust me, I've tried multiple times. There's even people in this call right now who I've messaged to have them not be as critical. So it's an issue I'm aware of in the invite division. For the open division, if you have a complaint, I don't want you posting it in the open chat NA or something like that. Just come directly to me. We can review the match. If there's an issue, the player will be suspended or relegated or what have you. We just don't need to create conflict in public. We can do it, resolve it in a civilized manner. I'm almost done here. There's a good bit to get through, but okay. So what are we doing now? So for today and for I would say probably until Monday or Tuesday, we're going to run an open beta. This is not going to be how the open format will look moving forward. This is just for us to test to see what player availability is, how large the skill gap is, and what the general quality of the matches are. Um, Once we have all of that data, then we're going to do something like a official launch of the open division. Official launch of the open division will have cash prizes, and it will have also an opportunity for promotion to the invite division. With caveats, those caveats, I will explain that promotion process at a later date. That's not for today. But just so you know, there will be cash prizes for the open division. For today, I've put FACEIT points. So anyone who queues, at least 20 people who queue, will get FACEIT points. FACEIT points eventually can be used to redeem cosmetics. So for now, you can redeem Counter-Strike cosmetics, but in the future, you can redeem Deadlock cosmetics. Um, let me go through my list here. So as it stands now, we have open and invite. Invite is essentially top 100 on the leaderboard, and that alone doesn't even qualify you. You have to get a vouch from player. There's been plenty of players who are Eternus 6 or Eternus 5 who I've had to remove because they don't have a substantial hero pool, or their comms are bad, or they have some kind of attitude issue, what have you. Um, but as it stands, we have these two divisions, invite and open, fairly self-explanatory. Invite, you have to be invited into. Open is open to Oracle Plus. So I am the one who set Oracle Plus here. The majority of the players here are Ascendant and High Phantom. There's not a lot of Oracles, and I tried to only let in the Oracles who seem to have be getting placed into Phantom and Ascendant matches. I realize there might be a skill gap there. We can assess it as we move. I would appreciate if you're patient and you don't just dismiss players offhand. I personally am not really good at this game, but I queue up with Eternus players all the time, and I can hold my own against whatever Phantoms and Ascendants. So I think Phantoms and Oracles should be able to hold to contribute positively as long as they are following our kind of guidelines for behavior. But as it stands, we have two divisions. In the future, we're going to be adding multiple divisions. So we'll go between open and invite, an array of divisions um, organized according to ELO. So if you are not familiar, ELO is on the FACEIT platform. If you see next to your username, you'll see the number 3 in green. Right now, it is not activated. We will be activating it in the new year. I can't say too much about it right now, but we will be. And players who participate in Open, we will reward you. So our way of rewarding you is that we're going to be giving you an elevated ELO level when we do introduce ELO to the platform. So even though these early leaderboards are not going to be that consequential, and this early period is more focused on individual player development and the growth of this community on FACEIT, in the near future, we're going to be enabling ELO and opening the platform to the wider community, and you will be given a kind of baseline ELO that is higher than other people. So you will be rewarded for participating in these early days. And just so you know, just so you have a vision for what the future looks like, there is going to be a ladder. If you understand what I mean by a ladder, it means multi-division. So it'll be something like open, intermediate, main, premier, advanced, invite, something along those lines. Multiple divisions, each with cash prizes, promotions, heavy behavior moderation, and essentially acting as a path to pro. But we're not there yet. I just want you to know what we're heading to. So now we can finally get to what you guys want to do, which is playing. So before I start the queues, I want to explain some things. For now, I'm not giving the captain role. The captain role will be determined